All right, Zoom just told me that we're recording, so let's get it, man. This is my
Yeah,
boy,
yeah,
Willie Livesey. Thank you so much for joining me today. How you been?
dude, man, bless.
Blessed and highly favored.
You already
If
know it.
y'all
You
don't
already know.
know, if y'all don't know, Willie's got a clothing brand, Faith and Desire. He's also doing a lot of stuff in the mental health space. He is a counselor. He's a therapist. You want to just speak to the people a little bit on what your foray into that side of the world is, just so we can kind of get some context.
So I work with individuals who are mentally undeveloped. They call it autism spectrum.
So
I
some more
call it
spectrum.
speaking in a different language. You feel me? So
Right.
just enough to wake up every day and help these kiddos out, as far as behavioral, fine motor skills, being able to operate socially, just giving them that guidance when their parents can't be around. Of course, when they're going to school, who's really right there giving these kids that extra one-on-one attention that makes them feel like what I'm doing is important. You feel me?
Yeah.
Some people go to school and be like they're super smart, but they don't want to do nothing because there's 20 other people in the classroom. They know they're smarter than them. You feel me? They ain't getting no gratification from even doing. That's like going to work and not getting paid to do it.
Right.
So at the point in time, we got these super smart kids, but giving us classroom space, they're not getting that one-on-one interaction to be like, hold on, they can actually do things. It's just they're not
So
motivated
do you
to.
think that's the problem with our perception of people on the spectrum is that since we don't give them attention, we tend to just dismiss them, but they might actually have something to offer.
Hey, and to say that Elon Musk came out as being what was it?
He said it's
As
Asperger's. Yo,
exactly Asperger.
I got a good
So
friend out here who's on the spectrum, and we have some of the dopest conversations about language. Just the way his
man,
mind works, he's very, very objectively critical about it, and it kind of gives me a good mirror to see that subject matter because he's very passionate about it. And I think there is something that we miss by pretending that people on that spectrum are somehow less than, instead of, as we said, like just a different expression of consciousness, of human awareness in a way.
man,
Um, but anyway, let's go ahead and get into it, man, because the first time we spoke, we had some good talks about just the arena of mental health, especially with Black men. And a stat that I brought up then that I want to bring up again, and this is specific to England/Wales because that's where I'm at right now. I'm in the UK, but it's the stat that I thought was super super crazy. It says Black people are 4 times more likely to be detained under the Mental Health Act than white people in the United Kingdom. Right, so 4 times more likely, 400%. And to me, that speaks directly to this problem that we're having. And it's not necessarily that we are predisposed to having these broken minds, but it's that in these legal frameworks that we exist in, we are the ones that are most targeted to reap the negative benefits of those quote unquote mental health issues. I don't know if that makes sense. It's almost like we're being, because of the fact that we have a certain maybe method of expression that isn't a part of how quote unquote Western society. I don't know if that makes us more predisposed to testing high in certain things. So like somebody who might just be eccentric or who might just be intellectual in a different way gets dubbed as schizophrenic or gets dubbed as bipolar. We see them do it all the time to Kanye, somebody who is highly, highly gifted, but every single article I read is about how he's crazy, how he's mentally incapable. And I'm just trying to figure out why do we have those two things?
mm,
I don't know, that was
and
a
that
lot
got me.
there.
No, hey, bro, and I took it all in because it is questioning what really is mental health.
Mm,
So you really got to break those words down. Mental. What do you think is the thoughts that you think, are they actually coming into your manifestation of your life?
mm-hmm,
Health. When I think of the word health, I'm thinking about is something good.
mm-hmm,
You know, is it healthy? Is it growing? I have a plant. Are there new leaves that are transpiring from this plant every time I water it? It looks healthy.
yeah.
It's thriving. So, are your thoughts thriving
Ooh,
in
that's good.
reality?
Yeah. That's
You
good.
know, so
No, because at the same time, the way that we often think of mental health, it's more to do with conformity than it is to do with thriving.
mm,
Because in a way, like you look at the DSM, which is the book that all the psychologists use to diagnose folks, you see the fact that all of these disorders, quote unquote, are essentially rules that somebody made up. That's it. Right? And so if you don't conform to these rules, then we somehow have the authority to make a proclamation not only about your mental state of being, but your way of life. We can put you in a mental health facility. We could lock you up. We could do this, that, or the other, all because of some rules that somebody made that we're not even 100% sure are accurate. I mean, it changes every 20 years or so. So it's almost like, how are we going to use that as the basis for real life? Like we have things like biology, right? And we use that for having doctors. And even that is something that we still call it a practice. It's a doctor's practice because they're still learning. So something as recent as psychology, it just seems like we should have a little bit more humility when we're diagnosing people.
mm.
I don't know.
Hey, and when I tell you firsthand experience working in the field with people who have mental disabilities, working with these, master degrees, people who have master knowledge, and
Yeah.
sitting down and
Academia types.
attaining the verbiage,
Mm-hmm.
and to say that you can learn everything from a book. But if you miss out on how to actually treat and love an individual and communicate with them effectively, then what you learned, you can't even pass that to the other person because you just can't even, they won't even give you the time of day to communicate with
Yeah.
you. So it's just like,
Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy?
bro.
Yeah. It's a
And
lot that I think we have to fix in terms of, I don't know, just the way that mental health is even perceived. Like I had this, I made this post on Facebook, and I know you, we almost be like tag teaming it on there because everybody else be on the sideline.
it'd
So
be
we be like,
fun,
all
bro.
right, we
It'd
got
be
to give everybody this juice.
fun.
And I said something like, mental health is like spiritual warfare, or no, like essentially this, like the way that the words that we use to determine a problem often impact the way that we solve it. And so
Mm,
I think a lot of ways that we look at mental health or mental illness is from that paradigm of Western culture where we think it's something that needs to be prescribed, diagnosed, and then made well by this third party who has all of the answers. When in reality, as you said, it's about mental thriving. And it's about not being a conformist and being like everybody, but it's about growing in your own unique way and being your own individual. Uh, and I just don't know if there's any space for that today, bro. Like it almost feels like to be too much of
everything's in
an
a
individual. Yeah, like it's
It's
just
like
not
it's like
accessible to people.
being a big tree, but you put it in a little bowl and expect it to grow to its fullest potential, but then you're dumping pesticides on it. Not only are you dumping pesticides on
Right.
it, the air filtration is all messed up. You're not getting the sunlight. And you turning the air conditioner up, so you got it all
Yeah.
extra cold in there. Then you just like,
It's in the shade. It's like,
man.
and then they have the nerve to be like, why isn't this tree growing? It's like, yo,
And now the tree is sick. So let's let's give it another dosage
let's give
of
it
a
some
cure.
extra pills. So it's like that you have the what do they say when the arson coming back to put out the fire or something like that? It's like the people who are supposed to be fixing this are the people that were the people that made it bad in the first place. And I'm like,
Oh my
wait a
goodness.
second.
Oh, bro. And so just expand it. I was talking to my lady, and just to know that some jobs created, honestly, they require other people to take advantage. And to an overwhelming extent, where we see this policing force, where it's like, if we didn't have anybody doing crime or, or disobeying the rules, there'd be no need for police. There would be no money filtered into a society that will go towards law enforcement. With that being said, you can move that money to go towards communities, to beautify communities, to make sure there's establishments that have running water that is clean in Detroit, Michigan.
Yeah.
And these things where we got more police, how can you say that there is a correspondence of less crime?
Yeah. I almost would say that there's probably a positive correlation between the amount of police and the amount of crime, which is, it almost feels like an oxymoron, but the reality
It
is you try to fight the problem, and then it becomes, do you exacerbate the problem in a way. It's like if you actually went to the root of why these people are committing crimes, and usually it's just extreme poverty. If you went to the root of that and you actually solve these problems, a lot of people wouldn't, people don't want to go and like stick somebody up. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's because they're desperate. And so if you fix the root issues, then you wouldn't have the crime. But instead of fixing the root issues, they'll ignore all of those. In fact, they'll make them even worse by gerrymandering, by redistricting, by taking the like, what do they call it when you have people come into the neighborhood and then all of the market value goes up, and then those people are displaced into other neighborhoods. It's just like you have this cycle of wealth being redistributed from poor people to rich people. And then instead of dealing with that, what they do is they just hire more policemen. It's almost like they're guilty, or they feel like scared that, yo, we've been doing wrong by these folk sometimes.
we gotta protect ourselves
That's what it
and
almost feels like. Because these
but
policemen, we all know that they are paid for anyway. We know that those people aren't over here to really, if they were protecting the law, that's one thing. Because I do have a point to where I think that we still need law enforcement. I will say it. I think that we still need law enforcement. But at the same time, are those people actually enforcing the agreed upon laws that we've all come to say, yes, this is what we want? Or are they just a private army for the rich and wealthy who are essentially dictating the norms for everybody else? Because the answer to that question will determine if we actually need them, if they are a
mm,
necessary thing. Um, and that gets into the whole other area of what is our response to when we have mental breakdowns. Another stat I saw is that black men are 3 times as likely as white men to have psychosis, or like the a mental breakdown. And I'm thinking of, okay, if with all these stats, all these numbers, whatever, what is the way forward? Because if we're all in agreement that this is a problem, at some point we gotta be like, okay, we can't just keep throwing them in prison. Like, there has to be something else. Like, there's something that we have to fix here. And I don't
mm,
know if that has to do with our spiritual nature. And that's why I brought up that post that I made. Is like, okay, is this just mental, as in our head, and that's it? Like, is it just electric pulses that are going in our brain and that's it? Or is it something metaphysical, not just physical, but something that is deeper, something that is in a way spiritual, where we have to attack those demons in the form of whatever traumas, in the form of whatever things that we've been through, and then and only in doing that can we come out clean on the other end. And that's what
mm.
I'll one more quote and then I'll toss it back to you. I saw something earlier today that said something like, a lot of people are trapped, and it's like a psychologist said, it's like a lot of people get trapped in the age that they experience a trauma. And so sometimes
Ooh,
people will experience something very deeply hurtful at the age of 10, and they grow up, they now they 24, 25, whatever, but mentally they are still in that place to where they haven't emotionally matured past that trauma point because they haven't healed it. And that just feels like, if more people understood that, that could unlock a lot of, like, that could help a lot of people to really start to look back and figure out, okay, why am I reacting this way? Why am I hurting this way? Why don't I feel yada yada? I don't know if you had any comments on that.
come on, bro. And to say it's like the Twilight, where in the movie Get Out, where you literally stuck inside your mind doing the same things over and over again. And you don't even know how much time really passes
Yeah.
unless you take account for it.
Yeah.
And if you're in a cycle of doing something, you will be stuck in that cycle and years will go by. And to say that, you got someone who could be 18, but be mature, more mature of a person than someone who's, 35,
Mm-hmm.
are you looking
Seen
like,
it.
what have you been doing with your time? So
Mhm.
pretty much this 18-year-old is more conscious and aware of himself over this 35-year-old who's just looking like they're just doing things.
Yeah.
But it's just, man,
That goes into one other option or topic of unlearning, because that's almost bigger than learning these days. Because if you learn the wrong thing for long enough, you almost at a disadvantage to somebody who's 18 and is like a clean slate. You know what I mean? Like if
man,
you're 35 and you've been nurturing those bad coping mechanisms for, half of your life, that's going to take a minute for you to undo that before you can even start to build something that's healthy. And I think that's what's most scary to most, like a lot of people. It's like the work that they'll have to do just to undo what they've done, and they're not even sure they want to undo it yet because they're still living in that reality. And so it becomes this, like, it's like the blocks are stacked against you in terms of the friction for this decision to be made. It's all time high. You don't want to, you're stuck. You're almost just catatonic. Like, I don't want to do anything. And then
and
you keep staying in
shoot,
that.
that goes back to what we was talking about, like the kiddos in the classroom. You got 20 people in the classroom, they ain't getting that attention. Who really wants to do anything when they're not motivated to do anything? And then especially when they're just socially aware of how somebody's talking to them.
Yeah.
You can tell if somebody talking to you and the tone is a little, I'm just saying this just because I'm reading off a script or however I'm getting paid for this. I came across many individuals in the classroom in the university setting where they were just like, "Yeah, I'm getting paid for this." Like, and
I
so
come across some
I
of those
took,
people on Facebook nowadays.
like, you gotta be getting paid to just be like, "Go get this," or like, because it's just like, why even give it that much energy as attention? More so, your actions tell you who a person is, how do you behave, and continuously we build those up as individuals to say that, oh, that person that person's that person's this. We've got to get back to the point where mental health, what are we thinking?
And it's a growth
How,
process.
you feel me? What are we
Yeah.
thinking? Mental health. If what we're thinking creates growth, then it's healthy. To say that I can't even walk around Stony Island and look at my brothers and be like, what up, everybody? You feel me?
Mm-hmm.
It's more so of a side eye, cold eye, bro. Like to the point,
Right.
like, do we even know each other walking around?
Damn. Damn.
To the point where I'm situations, granted that I'm still here. I'm in front of my auntie house with 3 guns to my head. And of course, we all had the same skin. And I'm just looking in his eyes like, you gonna shoot me. The fact that I'm still here, bro, and just to see and just to
That's a
know
blessing.
mentally what's going on,
Thank God that
and
you
to say
are.
that, bro, that's
Man.
it, it's deeper than what they're trying to tell us. So
Definitely.
just to be aware, always having a media portraying what you want to be. That's why I'm in love with creating, bro. I see you creating. You gotta create because it's like if you're not creating, then you're consuming someone else's creation.
And that goes into programming. Part of the reason why we're mentally diseased,
Mm,
uneasy, is because we're ingesting so much bad programming, bro. And we got to flip it on its head. We got to become the program. We got to program ourselves so that we can start to program and create this reality to be something that's beautiful and not
you
something
know,
broken and intricate and,
in a
falling
goofy
apart.
loop. Real
Like
life in a goofy loop.
exactly.
What
Like
people on their third right now, and this ain't even 2021. It ain't even 2022 yet. people in their third little situation. So it's just like, how many more? And then it's not even like how many more, but is it working? You feel me? Now we're going back to mental health. Are people literally mentally healthy going back and doing something that's not helping them? So it's like, if the mass collection is like this,
Man,
how are we supposed to determine who is who is you know,
scripture says
one,
that you will know them, you
one
will know my disciples by their fruit. And I think that part of how we should go forward with that is seeing how people impact other people. Like it should be something where people feel empowered by us. But it's so hard to even determine that today because everyone is a politician and everyone knows how to play the game. And the people that are often the most abrasive usually are the ones that are the most authentic. The people that actually
mm,
love folks the most are the ones that are willing to, put their social capital aside and say the truth versus the people that are just kind of staying within the boundaries so that they can get the most likes on whatever. Like that's the game that we're playing these days. Where to be honest, to be truthful, is to to risk social suicide, and that's the price that some people want to pay. Like I think we're probably part of that group because we feel so strongly about the things that we believe in, and that level of conviction is rare today, bro. Rare. People don't believe in anything, so they'll say anything, and then they won't say the things that are the most important because they don't believe in anything. So it's like the people that actually know are on an island, and that's why these conversations are so important because at the very least, if somebody is able to come across this and stumble across and say, "Yo, yeah, mental health is important. Maybe it's something I need to take account of and begin investing in my own sense of growth." And again, I love how you put it that way, that it's mental growth because you're it's a process that keeps going. Like it's not like you just get to end goal and you're like, yes, I won the game, mentally healthy. It's a continual practice. And if you think
mm,
of it as a spiritual practice, or even if you don't want to think of it as a spiritual practice, if you just think of it as a personal growth journey, then things like practicing gratitude, if you're taking it from a spiritual lens, things like prayer, or things like journaling, things like just being present with yourself, or meditation, things that continue to allow you to watch yourself, metacognition, that thinking about your thinking, and then starting to almost self diagnose to where you don't need these outside third party random opinions telling you who you are, but you know who you are. And I think also personality tests can kind of come into there too, a little bit like giving you a sense of almost like a jump off point to what your kind of, I don't know, where your leanings are. Um, I don't know about you actually. Let me ask you this. Have you ever kind of dabbled with any? I know they got like Myers Briggs and Enneagram and different stuff like that. I don't know if you've ever taken any of those. If you
Myers Briggs and pentagrams. What you said that? I
no,
don't know.
not not pentagrams.
uh,
Myers Briggs. You ever heard of that personality test?
I, I heard about it. I'm not too familiar with it though.
Okay, so they got a couple, but the one that I actually mess with a lot is called the Enneagram, and it's just like 9 different types, and it looks kind of esoteric, which is probably why I was drawn to it. But it's very symmetrical. It's like based on like like ancient geometry and mathematics, and it has 9 types, and everyone kind of has these predispositions that put them on this kind of grand map of personality. But I just think that that kind of gives people a sense of who they are, and then they can use that plus the experiences that they have, plus maybe friends and family and stuff like that to kind of start to get a sense of who they are. But really, it has to come from them. The thing about it is that we figure out who we are through our relationship to others. We find ourselves best in community. We were created for community, like that. We weren't created to be alone. I'm learning that the hard way. We are created for community. I thought I could just cut myself off from people, but you can't because you need people in order to survive. Really, you
Yeah.
know.
And the confirmation you get from another being who doesn't know you to come up to you and say, you are that, or,
Mm.
encourage you to keep on doing what you're doing, is to say, you're not supposed to be here alone. You need that. Like I said, who wants to be in the classroom? And you're supposed to be doing whatever you're supposed to be doing as far as getting an assignment done, but no one's motivating you. There's no encouragement. You're not getting anything. You're just
Yeah.
living this throughout the day. And to say that, bro, I would never thought in 27 years I had to say, and I'm so thankful to have a conversation with somebody and see their face and to see, a genuine just conversation of intellect, and to say that it's a need for it
It
because,
is.
bro,
It
at some
is.
point in time, it's just like you really can't communicate with everybody.
Mhm.
More so, everybody kind of like stands off to you as far as trying to even communicate to you. So when we really talk about mental health, how's that to say that a human being is being away from everybody, socially distanced?
Yeah,
Lit-
bro, you talk about social distancing. Like, if you're being ostracized, what does that do to your mental health? Like, if you
Man,
talk about, like, it's almost like what do they have it in the prison system when they put you in solitary confinement type of thing? That's what it feels
bro,
like, where they people just indiscriminately, whatever they call it, cancel culture, whatever. I don't. To me, it's just a bunch of people who are in their feelings about stuff that might not really matter too deeply. But at the end of the day, so they cancel you, or whatever, they algorithm decides that you are a threat, or too many posts are being flagged, or whatever it is, right? And all of a sudden, you find yourself on an island. What does that do to you? It's like you don't have any feedback loop. You don't even know what's right or wrong anymore. In some cases,
man,
that's where you can spiral out of control in reality. That's when you can
yeah,
actually develop some of these traits, because not only have you been siphoned from the rest of the group, but now you're left to ruminate on your own thoughts. And those only self fulfill, and those only become more and more, you can get deeper and deeper down that hole. And I've been there too, where you can get so far deep where you don't even realize that there is a reality out there because you're not even worried about them. And it's like you have both sides of the coin, to where the solution can't be just to cut people off. There has to be almost like the opposite, where we embrace these people, But I don't know if we're there as a society yet. I don't know if we're even emotionally mature enough as a society yet to have those real um, encounters, if you will.
man.
But I don't know.
And to say you wanted solutions, I feel like as men in a society, it's up to us to come up with solutions, especially if everybody's running around saying there's a problem. We're men, we stand up, we say we got a solution.
Yeah,
I say my solution is actually being there hands on.
yeah,
That's why I picked up my field. That's why I'm, making sure I wake up every day. What can I do to impact someone that looks like me to make sure that their mental health and their experience in life is positive? You know, at least there's something that I can say that I took away with me, knowing that I made a positive experience. We learned something, we grew, we there's something that people said that you couldn't do. And so, my two words I live by: faith and desire. And I put that attitude towards everything I do,
yes, sir.
from athletics to, my graphics to my my social work. Like, bro, we need to have people to expect excellence even from people
Hmm.
who we didn't expect it from.
Man, that feels like a good place to start to close. Expect excellence. It just feels like this is a phrase that I've heard a couple of times before. We've become prisoners of low expectations in some situations.
Sheesh.
You know, us as a people, we've become prisoners of low expectations, meaning we don't even strive anymore because we've been given license to just stay down there. Y'all just stay down there. You don't have to try to become you can become a basketball player if you want, or you can
You were a slave before this.
you can yeah, you can entertain us if you want. But in terms of any of the real levers of society, making decisions, intellectual spaces, nah, sorry, right? Because you're not capable. And this is what we've been hearing so many times that eventually you believe it. There's this guy, Dr. Claude Anderson, a very, very prolific Black thinker who I think more people need to know of. He went to Stanford. He studied at Stanford and he did a lot of his research there as well. And he came up with this term called stereotype threat. And it's this idea that when we ingest a stereotype about ourselves, it becomes self fulfilling. And he did this test where he had Black students do a test, white students do a test. They did fine, both did the same. Then he gave the same test again, Black students, white students, told the Black students, hey, usually Black students don't do so well on this test, just so y'all know. Gave it to the white students, didn't say anything. White students
Mm.
did better than the Black students out of nowhere. Same intellectual ability, but when you told these students that they usually don't do well, for some reason, something in their head told them, well, I guess I don't have to try as hard, or, well, I guess I'm not as good at this. And their test results actually reflected that. So I'm
Mm.
thinking, what is this impact on a national scale? If you tell a bunch of people of the same race that y'all are destined to be this, that, or the other, what does that do for our potential? And I think excellence is a new way forward. And so I think I want to thank you for kind of putting that idea out there to end. And I don't know if there's anything else that you had that you wanted to plug, but I'll let you have the floor for the last couple of seconds before we close off today.
And that's part one, you know, social social constructs, creating conversations comprehensive in order to get solutions, bro. And I feel like let's grow.
Let's grow.
What's your channel? Let's grow, dude.
Oh yeah, time to grow, dude. I'm trying to become a little bit more artsy. So we'll see how that goes.
Hey,
But yeah, we should start doing these weekly. I think that the people could hear our perspective on just life in general. It could be positive. So maybe we'll tap back in next Monday. We'll see how it goes. But until then, you have a blessed one. Much love to you. Everybody out there, thank you for listening all the way through. Stay blessed, stay well, stay healthy. Continue to wash your hands and wash your ass. And we'll see y'all in the next one.
yeah, yeah.